Hey everybody, welcome back to Star Flack Media Gaming. You ever notice how every new physical format brings out the same crowd? Boycotts! Burn the stores! Give me a full, engraved, limited edition plastic cartridge with the blood of the developers. Relax. Today, I'm going to make the controversial but rational case that Nintendo Switches 2 game keycards are not the end of the world. In fact, they might be one of the last practical lifelines keeping physical retail alive. And that matters more than your collector's flex. Here's the core truth. The fight over game keycards is mostly emotional and not logical. People see a tiny card with a code and scream, "Where's my physical game?" But if you step back and examine incentives for retailers and for consumers, and for the overall survival of physical presence on store shelves, game keycards actually score major wins. I'm going to walk you through the economics, the user experience, and why the digital only or bust crowd is missing the bigger picture. Let's start with retailers. Big box stores live and die on shelf space, and shelf space is not charity. If publishers and platform holders leave shelves empty because games are purely digital downloads, retailers either fill that space with crap merch or stop stocking the console altogether. Game keycards give retailers something to sell. A physical card in a box means a visible product, impulse purchases, and crucially, a place to advertise the platform to a casual shopper. Without that physical presence, consoles risk becoming invisible to the mainstream buyer who still browses the aisles at Walmart and Target. That's not nostalgia talking. That's simple customer acquisition. If the Nintendo Switch 2 loses retail shelves mindshare, everyone loses. Consumers, developers, and the diversity of games that come from a thriving retail ecosystem. Next is flexibility. A game keycard sits between pure digital and a full plastic card. It's cheaper to produce and distribute than a card. So prices can be friendlier while still being tangible. Now, I get it. Most games that are on game keycards are still charging full price. But more importantly, unlike a sealed digital code hidden in a box, many retailers will accept unopened keycards for return or exchanges. Many secondhand shops like GameStop will even take them in as trade-ins. Trade-in programs are already null and void when it comes to used codes or even trying to get a code back to the store. Meaning consumers still get resale value and the option to trade or recoup some cash from a game keycard. For the average buyer, not the connoisseur collector, but the person who wants to buy a game, maybe try it, and then maybe sell it later, that's huge. It preserves some of the benefits of physical ownership without the cost of overhead of full cards. Now, let's compare the keycards to boxed digital codes. A full boxed cartridge is ideal for sharing. You can hand it to a friend, slap it on another system, escort your cousin down memory lane. Digital codes in a box, they can be used once and often are tied to accounts, never to be passed on. Keycards, depending on implementation, can be resold, sealed, traded, or even gifted. That preserves an element on the secondary market. Again, something that's purely digital distribution destroys. Yes, a lot of keycards are single use, but you still have the sealed product to trade. That matters for affordability and for the social culture of games. Can't forget how important it used to be to trade with your friend. That social aspect still exists. Lending, swapping, bargaining, things that keeps gaming accessible. Now, someone was going to say, but what if the store shuts down next decade, the storefronts, and you can't download it anymore, and your game keycard becomes worthless? And sure, that's definitely possible and a valid argument. But be honest about it. That's a long-term hypothetical affecting every digital purchase you make now, not just game keycards. Even full physical media faces longevity issues, format obsolescence, cartridge corrosion, lost support. The reality is, for probably 95% of gamers, the risk of the store vanishing before they either finish the game or move to the next console is increasingly small. And the fact is, these things might disappear a decade down the line when people are on to their next system. Also, and this is important, if the entire industry collapses into a single sealed ecosystem where everything is tied to an online store with no physical fallback, that's a systemic problem that needs the industry and regulatory responses. Blaming keycards for that is like blaming the canary when the coal mine collapses. Keycards are actually an interim, a pragmatic solution that keeps retail engaged while digital is still growing. To the hardcore collector screaming about dying physical format, I see you. I respect it. I liked physical games and physical movies. I respect the sticker book editions and the numbered boxes, but ask yourself, are you a representative of all gamers or just a small sample? The collector crowd has always been niche for the most part. Most people want to play games, not mount them on a wall. There aren't many people out there with gigantic VHS collections once DVD took over and Blu-ray. In fact, many people don't even have physical movies anymore once Netflix and other streaming services came out. If your standard for what counts as physical is a $100 steelbook with a cloth map, fine. Keep buying those. But don't gatekeep physical media for everyone. Key cards keep a middle ground open. Lower production costs, lower retail space, physical resale value. They're not perfect. They're not for collectors, but they keep the option of any physical presence on a store shelf alive for the rest of the community. Game cartridges are expensive. Those 64 gig cards cost way more for manufacturing costs, logistics, DRM needs, and longer lead times increase risk, especially for indie game developers and even mid-sized studios. Game keycards reduce that friction, lower their costs for the developer, and sometimes that publisher can even pass that on to you. Split Fiction was a game that I believe was like $49.99. Keycards reduce that friction. It means publisher can justify a physical run for smaller titles. That's how niche games get shelf presence, which in turn helps discoverability. You want more unique titles on store shelves? You don't boycott the thing that makes those shelf placements financially feasible in the first place. Here's where it gets spicy. A lot of anti-key card rhetoric is purely emotional theater. It's not a real game, people cry, waving their plastic carts with like old school relics. That's passion, yes, but it's also a cognitive bias. The anger comes from a sense of loss. Fine, grieve your format. Don't pretend that grief is rational policy. If you want to argue from outcomes, availability, price, resale, and retail survival, keycards often produce better net outcomes for the majority than a hardline, purist boycott posture. Finally, the slippery slope claim. Today, keycards, tomorrow, nothing physical at all. I get it. It is dramatic, but it's weak. Digital code and boxes have been around forever. That's worse. And game keys on a disc have been around since the Xbox 360. That's also nothing new. Market forces push towards digital convenience. Yes, that is an argument to be made, but market forces also respond to consumer demand and regulatory pressure. If consumers truly care deeply enough about physical media staying alive and trying to keep it alive, they would vote with their wallets in a way that influences publishers. Keycards are a pragmatic compromise that lets physical media evolve rather than vanish overnight. So yeah, I get the rage. I get the attachment to cartridges and box manuals and discs and that satisfying clack when you open a DVD case or when a cart slides into your system. But let's be logical. Keycards are a practical, pro-consumer, pro-retailer middle ground that preserves shelf presence, resale options, and discoverability while reducing costs to an audience that may never go onto an online store. If you care about keeping physical media in any form, for the majority of gamers, keycards are not the enemy. They're the last pragmatic defense. Don't boycott nuance, boycott dogmatism. And if you're still mad, fine. Buy the collector's edition. The rest of us will just keep the ecosystem alive. I know that's a hot topic and a hot take on it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Tell me why game keycards are the end of gaming as we know it in the comments below. Leave a like, share, subscribe. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me here on the channel, and we will catch you in the next video.